It was meant to be the best day of my life, my 18th birthday. The cake still sat on the table, candles melting into the frosting, friends laughing, my mother smiling with nervous hope. For a second, I allowed myself to imagine my stepfather showing some kindness. Instead, he rose, cleared his throat, and fixed me with a cold, hard stare. "You're not my real son," he announced, and then told me to leave. At first, I thought it was a cruel joke, but when he bent down, grabbed a plastic bag of my clothes, and flung it at my feet, the reality hit me. He meant it. The bag sagged with everything I owned. My mother, Alara, the person I always ran to when things were too heavy, covered her mouth and said nothing. Her silence stung more than his words. My face burned with shame as my friends murmured and shifted. I picked up the trembling bag, stepped outside, and the rain slammed into me. I walked without direction, tears blurring my view, the cold night air biting my skin. Stopping felt like admitting I had nowhere to go. Then, headlights cut through the storm. A sleek black car eased up beside me, and a tinted window rolled down. A man's face stayed in shadow as he asked, "Are you Adrian?" I tightened my hold on the bag and answered yes. The man nodded and said simply, "Your real father sent me." All my life I'd felt out of place in my own home. I'd watched other kids with their dads and wondered what that bond was like. Conrad, my stepfather, who married my mother when I was 10, never gave me those moments. He wasn't openly vicious every day, but his constant resentment filled the house. I tried to win him over with drawings and quiet attention, but he barely noticed. When he did speak, it was to criticize or order me around. His sharp commands and judgment slowly wore me down. My mother loved me, I knew that, but she lived by compromises. Exhausted from long shifts as a nurse's aide, she wanted peace more than confrontation and taught me to keep my head down. "Just let it go. Don't push him," she would whisper, and I learned that silence was safer. Conrad ran the household. Rules, guests, dinner choices, and every small exchange chipped away at my confidence. Still, I clung to the hope that turning 18 might change things. Maybe adulthood would finally earn his respect. That morning I woke with that hope. Friends were coming. Uncle Darius, my mom's kindly older brother, might stop by, and the house smelled of cake and balloons. My mom had done her best to make the day special. I blew out the candles, wishing, childish as it felt, for acceptance. For a moment I believed it might happen. Then Conrad's gaze hardened. He stood, pushed his chair back, and cut through the laughter. 18 years of pretending. "I think it's time we stopped the act." Everything I thought I knew about family and myself fractured in front of everyone I loved. His words hit me like a physical blow. "You never were. And as of today, you're out of this house." For a moment I thought I'd misheard. My friends shifted awkwardly. One let out a nervous laugh that died when Conrad showed no mercy. I looked at my mother, pleading silently for her to speak, but she only sat there, pale and frightened, her hand trembling before she let fall. "Conrad, please," she whispered. He shrugged her off coldly. "Now is the perfect time," he said. "I'm done. You're not my responsibility." I tried to argue. My voice broke, but Conrad sneered and tossed a sagging grocery bag of my clothes at my feet. "There. Take it and go." The room went quiet except for rain on the windows. Everyone's pity felt like needles. My mother whispered my name, but it had no force behind it. I picked up the bag with shaking hands, swallowed the thousand things I wanted to say, and walked toward the door. She sobbed softly, but didn't stop me. Outside, the storm swallowed me. The rain soaked me instantly. My shoes squelched through puddles as I walked, gripping the bag like the last tether I had. Houses passed by, warm lights and laughter inside. Everything I'd wanted but never had. Thoughts crowded me. Where would I sleep? Will my mother come after me, or stay and pretend nothing happened? I thought about my Uncle Darius, wishing he'd been there. The betrayal burned deeper than the cold. I kept moving because stopping meant collapse. My feet went numb, the streetlights smeared by the rain. Conrad's words, "You're not my real son," echoed, stripped me of belonging. I wanted to scream at him, demand answers from my mother, but the storm swallowed my voice. Then, through the downpour, I heard an engine and saw headlights. A black car pulled up. Its window went down, and a man leaned out, calm and measured. "Are you Adrian?" he asked. I was startled, defensive, but I answered. He said, "Your real father sent me." The words cut through the storm. My chest tightened. The stranger, Callan, introduced himself, and said my father had asked him to find me and make sure I was safe. He urged me to get in and explained that my father's name was Kieran Marlowe, a name my mother had once whispered and never explained. It made the ground tilt. When I demanded why Kieran had been absent, Callan said it wasn't what it seemed. Kieran hadn't abandoned me. Conrad had kept him away. He'd been trying to reach me, and now that I was 18, Kieran wanted me found. The rain kept pounding, and part of me wanted to distrust it all as a trick, but a fragile hope flickered. I glanced back at the house one last time. Its light no longer felt like home. I hesitated, torn between the house where a man had just declared me nothing and the warm car waiting with Callan's words still ringing in my ears. Your real father sent me. The choice was brutal. Stay out in the rain with a bag that held the life I'd known, or climb into a stranger's car and step toward an unknown truth. I breathed, opened the door, and climbed inside. Warmth hit me immediately. The leather cradled me, and the storm noise dwindled to the steady hum of the engine. Callan drove off without fanfare. He kept his voice steady, telling me I deserved answers. I demanded them. If my father wanted me, where had he been? Callan told me Kieran had tried to reach me for years, but Conrad had blocked him, twisted the story, and kept him away. The revelation made my anger flare. All those years I'd blamed myself for abandonment. Then Callan handed me a small envelope. Inside was a worn photograph and a folded letter. The photo was of a younger man holding a newborn. The baby was me. The letter, written in a strong hand, said Kieran had waited 18 years, had fought to find me, and loved me. Tears blurred the words. For the first time, the idea that I'd been wanted felt real. We drove until we reached a house tucked at the end of a long drive. Callan stopped the car and told me Kieran was inside. My legs trembled as I walked to the door, clutching the photo. When it opened, the man who stepped forward was older, streaked with gray, but unmistakably the same man in the picture. His eyes met mine with recognition and relief. When he said my name, something in me unthawed. I dropped the bag and stumbled into his arms. He held me as though he'd been holding that moment in his chest for years, whispering that I'd never been unwanted, that I'd been taken from him, but that now I was his. In that embrace, the lies Conrad built around my life washed away, and for the first time I understood what it meant to belong. Kieran's arms felt like the first steady thing I'd had in a lifetime of storms, strong, sure, as if he was afraid I might slip away if he loosened his hold. My sobs eased into something like relief. For once I wasn't begging for scraps of affection. I was being taken in without question by the man who had never stopped looking for me. Inside his house, it smelled of wood smoke and fresh bread. I sank into a chair at the kitchen table, still clutching the photograph and the letter. Kieran sat across from me, eyes fixed on mine as if trying to make up for lost years. He told me how Conrad had poisoned the story, forged papers, and misled my mother to keep him away, that by the time Kieran could fight back, too much damage had been done. I thought of my mother frozen at the table that night, unable to defend me. Part of me still loved her. Part of me burned with hurt. Kieran insisted she loved me, but had been trapped by fear and Conrad's control. His words softened something in me, though the wound was still raw. He showed me photo albums, unsent letters, legal documents, proof of the battles he'd fought to reach me. Each piece of evidence mended me a little more. The anger I'd held for years slowly loosened and hope seeped in. Thinking about Conrad, I realized his cruelty had, perversely, pushed me toward the truth. By throwing me out, he'd removed the shield that hid who I really was. My mother's silence cut deepest. I longed for a day I could face her and see whether she would finally admit what she'd done. One night by the fire, Kieran said he couldn't give me back the lost years, but he could give me everything from now on. I wanted nothing more than that, a chance to know him and belong. For the first time, I believed I could. The storm that started with Conrad's attack had brought me here. It washed away lies and left a simple truth. I was wanted. I was loved. I had a home. If this moved you, share it with someone who needs it. Tell me which part hit you hardest. And if you want more stories like this, like and subscribe. Your support helps me keep sharing them.